Hi, and welcome back to Prey vs. Predator, the podcast. We are so happy for you to join us. We are doing a special episode. This is one of our pack episodes. These are our Predator Awareness Kit episodes where we discuss and we expose the tools that predators use. We give you examples when you are in that relationship from our own personal stories or even stories that we've heard. And lastly, we talk about what prey can do, if anything, to deal with these behaviors. So we want to set you up for success. So why don't we start with PJ?
Thanks, Amber. Today, we're going to look at gaslighting in particular. And all of us talked about how that's one of the fancy terms that's in the media right now, and everybody's talking about it, and very few people actually understand it. If you listen to any of our earlier episodes, you would have understood that even some of us didn't fully understand what gaslighting exactly was and looked like and felt like.
I do have the definition here.
Yes.
If you would like for me to read it. Gaslighting is a form of manipulation that often occurs in abusive relationships. It is a covert type of emotional abuse where the bully or abuser misleads the target, creating a false narrative and making them question their judgment and their reality.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's great. I think because when we hear that, a lot of things can go through your mind. But I think what solidifies it in my mind is stories. Mm-hmm. Jill, do you have any stories from your?
I have one. And in my relationship with my predator, it was really challenging for me to just say what was on my heart. And I remember it was a Sunday morning. I was making lunch for the family, and my predator was just being awful to me. And I don't know how long it took me to actually get my nerve up, but I opened my mouth. I'm like, you know what? Stop it. This is what you're doing, and it's not okay. And looking back, it's just so comical. You're going to laugh. So after I spoke my mind, my predator turned to me and said, you know why I've been treating you like crap? This is why. And I guess there were 5 of us about to have lunch. And I guess for whatever reason, I had only put out 4 plates. And he's like, I was treating you like crap because you didn't even include me. You didn't even include a plate for me. And well, that wasn't actually true at all. I just miscounted the amount of plates that we'd need. But it was his way of justifying him treating me like crap. It was not his fault. In fact, he was justifying his behavior because
it was your fault.
It was my fault because I didn't put out the right amount of plates, which
Clearly.
is dumb anyway. But that's just like, when you say gaslighting, that's honestly the first story that comes to mind. It's just ridiculous. But then you take it on, oh, it's my fault.
I did only put out 4 plates.
I only did put out 4 plates. And so, yeah, it really was my fault that you're treating me like crap.
And isn't this what prey does? They look at it. They see the reality in the situation. I did put out 4 plates. I can understand how that would hurt somebody. And you almost get lost in being empathetic. You don't have that ability to sort of pull back and say, okay, I can see that. But what about the fact that you have treated me badly? I'm going to guess you didn't then call him on that.
I just put out an extra plate.
Very pragmatic.
Yeah.
Do you think that ended the bad treatment?
No, absolutely not. In fact, I think because that was in one of the earliest stages of our relationship, I think it just showed him, oh, this could work. This technique works. Because I think that's one of the first instances that I remember of being gaslit. And I think when he saw my reaction and what an effective tool it was in order to control me and manipulate me, he certainly used it many, many more times after that.
So it is about your reality is not true.
Yeah.
So essentially that is the heart of it. So how you interpret it. So for me, my abuser, my predator, ism was apparent. And I remember I would often get called names. So I grew up in a very religious household. So it'd be like, you're just a mediocre Christian. And I remember being really hurt by that. And I took it really seriously. I had a relationship and I was doing all this stuff and going to church and feeling pretty not perfect, but just like, and here's this person saying, you're not good enough. And that's like a diss in the culture I grew up in. And I remember saying, like that hurt my feelings. And then after that, it was like, well, I'm just speaking the truth. I don't know why you would take it so hard. Like it's not a bad term. Mediocre's fine. It's okay to be mediocre. It's okay to be mediocre, Amber. And it was so confusing to my brain that this was the case because I knew the heart of it was to put me down.
Mm-hmm. First, she's saying that you're not up to snuff.
Yeah, it was a diss.
And then she's saying, "Oh, but none of us are." Like,
and it was so confusing. Well, she didn't call herself mediocre, right? That's for sure. So it's
and you're not allowed to feel hurt.
No,
because it wasn't really a diss. And then it sounds like there's an added attack there, which is like, if you hear it as a diss,
what's wrong with you?
You must be interpreting it wrongly.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have then you add to this other thing. There's something wrong with you. Maybe you think you're really special and you have to be an awesome spiritual person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe mediocre is not good enough for you.
Well, I think you need to work harder at it.
Right.
You need to pray more. You need to be more. You need to get God on your side.
I'm just trying to inspire you.
Yeah. And so that is a lot of my stories are a lot about being called something and feeling hurt by it. And then saying something and being told that my experience wasn't valid, wasn't true.
And your emotions that what I said hurt you.
Yeah.
Is never, that's never spoken. I'm so sorry. When I said that, I didn't mean to hurt you. What I meant was blank, but yet it was meant to hurt you.
Yeah.
And now it's twisted in a way that you have the problem because you're calling me out on it.
And I sort of think that growing up in a conservative Christian environment where the phrase honor your father and mother or children obey your parents, like those were sort of probably beaten into you. And it almost gives the parent free rein to abuse their kids.
I think it often does. Yeah. And I know that it's probably off topic, but there was a sense of like the children are meant to serve the parents.
Right.
And so you just take the abuse because somehow they're molding you. I don't know. They're forming you to who you should be. So that was my interpretation. That was my situation. Yeah. It's not everybody's. Obviously, people are in the church or in churches or in religious environments and don't have that experience. So I just know that was true for me. And a lot of other names that had nothing to do with faith or God or anything were bantied about. I think it was a matter of control for this person, feeling that I do think it was a bit of venting, but then feeling guilty about venting. So I'm just going to gaslight you.
Right? Yeah.
It didn't really happen. It almost reminds you of like when you're a kid and you see something you shouldn't see and you think it's a dream. It's like, oh, did I dream that? Like, I just remember, and it's like, no, it was reality.
If you can channel for a sec, if you can just kind of take yourself back to that moment when you were little and your parent says that to you. What do you remember feeling, experiencing? What did your body go through? Because I have this theory that the body knows it's being abused.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it does for sure. I think I was a young adult at this time, independent, being, leaving and questioning a lot more, which was always a bit threatening to my predator. What it does is it devalues you. You feel devalued. And a person often knows a person who is supposed to love them. A child knows, a partner knows. The person that's supposed to love you is supposed to think you're pretty awesome and you're pretty rock solid and seeing your nature as somewhat exquisite. And for someone to call you mediocre, and that is my primary caregiver, means that I'm pretty not really that special. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what they're intending to do is to make me feel not that special. So I think for me, I just remember I would shut down. I would get really viscerally. It's a hard word. Angry.
Yeah.
And that is my go-to, as we discussed in previous episodes.
Was your anger inward toward you, or was your anger outward toward her, or?
It was always outward towards her in the beginning, like not in a bad way, probably in the way anger is intended. Like, you violated this boundary, this thing, you violated something. I don't know what it means, but you violated something. I'm hurt. And then I would go away and beat myself up internally. Like, I need to honor my parents.
Yeah.
I need to be a better person. If I wasn't so mediocre, then they wouldn't say this about me. And the fact that I have that struggle internally, there's something wrong with me, because other people don't seem to have the struggle. Whereas, like, Susie down the street, her mother calls her whatever name, and she kind of throws it off and says, my mother's stupid. You know what I mean? And I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it either means that what my mother is saying is true, or that how I deal with it, there's something wrong with that. I take it too personally. I was also called too sensitive. So it's an illustration of being too sensitive.
So even though the initial response was kind of a healthy response, you directed it where it needed to go, it kind of got flipped in your heart, like and in your head, it started getting flipped around to beating yourself up. And at the end of the day, you started to treat yourself badly and talk to yourself badly because of this type of abuse.
And that is, for me, my pattern. So I actually have a very good, healthy sense of when something is a violation. But I've been so trained through gaslighting that what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing is not true.
Mm-hmm.
And that I need to flip it and berate myself internally, or just feel crappy about myself. Or when I beat myself up, it's kind of like, oh, I need to be a better person. I'm not very good. No wonder I don't have this or that I want. Or, it's an internal sense of not being good enough.
But see, I think, and I'd love to hear what you guys think on this. This is where I think the predator uses this technique, because it limits your choices. So if I go to my predator and say, now you just flipped it on me, and you did, I think you did mean it to hurt me, because the person has already gaslit you. What do you imagine they're going to do when you try to they've already completely annihilated your voice. They have refused to hear your pain. They've refused to annihilate, they've refused to hear you. They've refused to acknowledge you in your pain, which you just brought to them. So what are you going to do? Bring more pain to them? Mm-hmm. Because it's so painful to have that voice ripped away from you. It's so painful for the person you love to ignore it, not just ignore it, but then to punish you for it, to hurt you for it. So you can't bring your pain to them. But that pain has to go somewhere. And so in order to survive, to kind of live to fight another day in the relationship, it kind of has to go internal.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
Yeah, it really does.
It either has to ruin the relationship, which I think Prey so value. You were willing to do these mental gymnastics in order to own it so that the relationship can continue.
Well, it makes me think of where the actual term came from, right? From the movie. I think it's called Gaslight. We should look it up. But essentially, a husband starts turning down the gas light, the lamppost, right? And so she calls him on it, and he's like, what are you talking about? That's not true. But he's doing it. So it makes you feel crazy. Like, what you're saying is not valid, is not true.
And she loses it to the point where he actually is able in the movie to put her into an insane asylum.
Yeah. So essentially, a man he's a murderer. He's murdered his wife's aunt, and I think to get some jewels. And the aunt, sounds like lived in the attic. Anyway, so he was secretly going into the attic, rummaging through all this stuff, so making sounds of footsteps in the attic. And whenever he would turn on the gas upstairs, this is an old movie, the lights in the regular house would go dim because more lamps were on. So this woman started noticing that the lights were going dim and there was sounds. And that's when he was like, no, you're going mad. You're going crazy. And wants to put her away in an institution so he can get all the, giving him power of attorney so he could search for the jewels. So that idea of the lights going dim and her saying, what's with the lamps?
It's a way
And
to
him,
control.
yeah. And for him to go, I don't know what you're talking about. The lamps are fine.
Right. Perfect. And then she looks crazy.
Yeah.
Because then your response to gaslighting, if you do try to interact with it, you will actually feel crazier and crazier because there's no relaxation from it. There's no response. There's nothing that makes you be able to calm down.
For me, there was no hope. Like there was no hope for me to have a rational relation or discussion with this person.
Yeah.
Not only was I shut down, I was shamed. It's actually your fault.
Well, and then you escalate because the more you try to prove your point, the more you try to actually say what the truth is for you, the more it escalates because the more they double down on gaslighting, right?
So now we've heard gaslighting. So let's look into what healthy would sound like in relationship. So maybe we can use one of our stories. What about Jill's story about the plates, the extra plates? Like how would healthy have sounded if the relationship was healthy?
Okay, PJ, do you want to be me or should I be me?
You pick.
I'll be me.
Okay.
Okay, and we're going to call my predator Maurice. Hey, Maurice, I really have to say the way that you treated me this morning in front of those people was not okay. You were demeaning. You put me down. You would cut me off and interrupt me when I was talking. And I really felt horrible.
Whoa, Jill, that's a lot. I didn't realize I was doing that. I'm so sorry. I would never, ever want to do any of that to you. I love you and value you so much. And boy, it hurts me even to hear that that's your experience. Can you tell me a little bit more about what happened or how that went for you?
I just have to laugh because that would never have happened. Like those words literally never, ever came out of my partner's mouth. And what that would do would just open up the channels of communication between the two of us.
Let's do the same role play.
Okay.
But I'll be a predator.
Okay.
Okay.
Deal.
So that's what healthy would look like.
Yeah.
And we haven't even touched the surface of what healthy would look like because
Right.
we'd have an ongoing communication,
Right.
and of things. But
Right.
but let's just end it there and let's do what a predator.
Or what
would
really
do.
happened. Okay. Hey, Maurice, I really don't like how you treated me this morning. You were demeaning. You kept cutting me off and interrupting me and calling me down in front of those people, and it was just not okay.
Jill, I hear what you're saying, and I'm so sad that that's how you think. I'm not sure if you realize what was happening in that moment. Did you not see? Like, tell me you didn't see what was actually going on, and how when you were trying to interrupt me on a regular basis, the couple looking at each other like they couldn't believe what was going on. Did you miss that?
Apparently, I did.
So that for me, getting shut down and shut up and told that, essentially making me look like a fool because you're trying to talk over me the entire time, is just so embarrassing to me. And I wasn't quite sure. And I could see the looks. Obviously, you missed it. I could see the looks that they were giving each other. And I didn't know quite what to do. And so I did the best I could to mitigate the damage that was being created in that moment. And if that came across harshly, then I'm just sad that you weren't able to see what was actually going on. I'm just trying to save our family's reputation.
Classic.
And you see, that doesn't sound that bad.
No,
So I
it
try to-
actually sounds caring.
Right?
I actually had your best interests at heart.
Right. But
by
you know, you're
treating
too
you like
stupid
crap.
to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
what's right in front of your
Exactly.
face. But I saw what was going on.
Yep.
And so I was trying to do a little bit of a modified predator that sounded kind of good. Right.
Yeah.
And they don't always. But I think the key to any, like Amber, if we did yours, where we do a healthy version of yours, let's do yours real quick.
Well, let's do it like the unhealthy way.
Oh, okay.
Let's just be unhealthy right from the start. And
Okay.
then we'll be healthy.
You want to be you, or you want to be your parent?
I'll be my parent.
Okay.
So I will be my parent,
Okay.
and I will look at you, PJ, and say, you know, I've just been watching you, and I just think that, PJ, you shouldn't be that excited about yourself because, you know, you are mediocre. And I've been watching you, and I think you're a mediocre Christian.
What?
There's nothing wrong with being mediocre. A lot of people are mediocre. I don't know why. Are you offended? Oh, see, you're just too sensitive. I don't know why you're so sensitive.
It just hurts my feelings.
And I don't know why, because you're taking mediocre as a bad thing, and mediocre is not a bad thing. A lot of people are mediocre. Well, the way you pray, I don't even need to get into it really, because you're just mediocre, and you should be okay with that. And the fact that you have a problem with it,
I'm
not really sure why you have such a problem with this.
You just said I'm
mediocre.
mediocre.
You are so sensitive. Do you understand how sensitive you are?
I'm just hurt. What did
I don't
do
know
that's
why
mediocre?
you're hurt. And the fact that you're hurt is making me angry right now. So I'm going to leave.
I'm
going to leave because right now you're just too sensitive and I can't talk to you. End scene. So that would be a scenario. So let's do a healthy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Which one do you want to be?
So I'll be the same person and let's handle it. And then I'll say you're mediocre, bud.
Okay.
And then I'll take responsibility. So I just watching you, PJ, in your relationship with God. And I just think that you're living a mediocre life and you're a mediocre Christian. And
what? What? Mom, that hurts.
Oh.
Why would you say that to me?
Well, I don't know if it's a bad. Do you find it a bad word, an offensive word?
I don't feel like it's a good word. It just feels like I'm not doing it right.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like there's good and there's bad and then there's mediocre. And I'm not bad, but I'm not good.
Well, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Maybe you could work a little harder. I don't know. I'm just so sorry. Maybe I'm just.
Well, in what way?
I guess I am judgmental. Maybe I'm judging you. I'm sorry that hurt your feelings, right? Did that hurt your feelings?
Obviously.
Okay. Obviously. It is hard for me to take that side and to apologize. It is hard because you say something so offensive and to turn that into something good. I think if you're a healthy parent, you wouldn't even use that word mediocre.
No, I'm saying
so I'm trying to reframe mediocre. I'm like, no, that's brutal.
In healthy parenting, when would you use that phrase?
Yeah, I don't think you would ever. You might just say, I'm concerned for your faith. And then the person says, what do you mean? And he's like, oh, I just, Well,
I would say as being a parent myself who has said stupid things, I think maybe I would say, because I have some experience saying dumb things, I might say, oh, you know what? I can totally see how that sounded on your end.
Mm.
And that was such a stupid thing. What I do think is you are such a beautiful person and I so value what you have to offer. And I think my own insecurities might be coming out because I think I judge myself really harshly. And I think I sometimes tell myself I'm mediocre in my mind. I think it will make me work hard to be better. And I just think that's a dumb idea altogether. And that I put that on you makes me feel sick to my stomach. And I am so, so sorry. There's nothing mediocre about you. And I'm so sad that I use my own pain to kind of speak stupidly and out of turn. And that it's not fair to you. And I'm so sorry.
So that is saying something dumb, but taking responsibility for it because we're not perfect, but not gaslighting in response to the pain the other person's bringing towards you.
The opposite of gaslighting is owning what happened.
Right.
I hurt you. You were hurt by me. That doesn't make me bad or wrong. Maybe the word mediocre isn't an offensive word to my spirit. But when I see that you were hurt by it, that should be like in my mind, if I love somebody and they're hurt by anything I did, whether it was intentional, whether it wasn't intentional, whether I meant to, whether I didn't mean to, that you were hurt by something that is associated with me, that is so sad and devastating to my spirit. And I'm already sorry.
What parent wants to hurt their kids?
Exactly.
Or what loving partner wants to hurt the person they were in a relationship with.
And when you don't hear your partner, when you shut them up and shut them down, you effectively silence them. You might as well put your hand over their mouth and stifle them.
That's right.
You don't get to speak. You see, even when we did the healthier version, even though, Amber, for you felt like you got stuck, like how do I own this, right? Like it's probably so offensive to your spirit.
It's so offensive to even say that, you know, like I know even for me, if there is a child that I'm coaching or working with and I call them a fun name and they don't like it, I'm like right away going, okay, I won't call you that. Even though it's endearing to me because they have a problem with it. And it's like, I'm respecting their owning of who they are. That's not how I want to be called.
And I know, PJ, you were saying in a previous episode that when this sort of thing happens, the predator is essentially saying, you have no needs or your needs will not be heard. Yeah.
Your voice does not matter.
That's right.
Your needs do not matter. You will shut up. You will stand down. You
Let me do what I want.
You will be silenced and you will be voiceless.
Yeah.
And nothing you say can or will help you at all. There is no court of law here. The predator is the judge, jury, and executioner, and you have no voice.
That's right.
So that is devastating to the human spirit. Because even, Amber, when you and I were, when you were the predator, but you were sort of doing a healthy version of it, even though it didn't feel like, it felt so different for me, even in a role play, to be able to say, well, obviously it hurt because I got to say some of my anger. Like, yes, you hurt me. How can you not think mediocre hurt? And some of my anger is directed at you. So for you to be able to hold that anger and understand that in the context of what was said and how I am as me, that gives me that sense of I get to be me and still be loved with you. Whereas the other one is like, oh, you have a voice? Screw you. Shut up. Stand down. You're an idiot. You don't exist here. And if you try, you will get, we're going to double down on the abuse. And the spirit can only take so much abuse. And you kind of have that sense when you're in a relationship with a predator that you need to just be quiet. And it's not like I never tried to defend myself. And I'm sure Jill and Amber, I know for sure you defend yourself lots of times with your predator. It just never goes well.
No, and even what I said earlier, the joke I made about no negotiating, but then you added with a predator, I think that comes down to it. When you're in a situation, you can't negotiate your own feelings or negotiate some way of meeting in the middle or even finding, this is my experience. No, this is my experience. And let's find a way to connect again. There is no negotiating with a predator. Their only tool is to gaslight you, because negotiate it means you better believe me. You believe this lie that I'm spinning, this gaslight.
And I think they can make our needs into a joke. I remember once I expressed my need towards my predator actually in front of my mom. And my predator said, I don't love you that much. And not only did I feel such shame that he had shut me down, he shut me down in front of my mom, but I just took it.
And humor is another great gaslighting tool.
I'm just joking. I was just making like, why are you
so sensitive?
Sensitive. Why would that even crush you? You know, I'm just joking.
Get a sense of humor.
Come on.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of like tone of disgust. It's that tone of anger. And when we talk about bringing a butter knife to a gunfight, the prey doesn't have that tool.
Right.
The prey doesn't have gaslighting. So if you don't have a word for gaslighting, you feel insane and you look crazy. I can't tell you how many people I have spoken to who, because they don't know what this word means, they start throwing things. They start yelling and screaming and kicking and punching walls. And
things they normally would never do.
Like the most gentle temperament.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, because when there's never that moment and you can fight, you think, I'm going to fight for my voice. I'm going to not give up. I'm going to stay the course. So when we're talking about gaslighting, I think it's important that we are going to express a little bit about healthy ways to deal with gaslighting. Because gaslighting is an abuse tactic. It's designed to make you feel crazy. It's designed to discombobulate your brain. It's designed to mess with your mind. We call it a mind bleep. So how do we deal with it in a healthy way as prey? That's really powerful. And I know that question gets asked a lot. And the truth is, it is nearly impossible to deal with in a healthy way because it's so unhealthy at its core. But I'm going to throw out there a couple, and if Jill and Amber, if you guys have some suggestions as well, I'd love to hear it. One was to get up and walk away and say, this is abuse. I don't accept abuse, and leave. If the gaslight was, you did this wrong, you could certainly say, I think we'll have to agree to disagree. I don't want to engage in this at this level. This doesn't feel healthy, or this doesn't feel safe for me. Recognize you're being gaslit. Recognize it's not going to go anywhere. I have a word for it. I'm being gaslit right now. I know it's not going to go well. I must not engage. If I try to engage, the person who will look crazy is me.
I wanted to add, as a person who experienced it as a child, my recommendation would be to just stand true in who you are. Like, if you have a strong core, like, we all have a sense, especially as children, like, your value has been violated. We all have that sense, like, that's not true. Or why are you saying that to me? We've even talked, even Jill, you mentioned being a young child and saying something very profound. And so we have this capability of knowing who we are at the core, what is really true.
Kids know what feels good.
Yes.
And what doesn't.
So,
and kids know what safe feels like and what safe doesn't feel like.
So I think you be your safe place. The world is not safe in the sense that if your parents are not safe. So you be your safe place, and then find somebody who is safe, and you can talk to them or bounce something off of them if you feel like you're going crazy. If something is being said over you that you go, that does not feel accurate. Maybe there's an aunt or a teacher or somebody that you can have a relationship, or even a good friend, and just say, this is what's being said to me. It makes me feel crazy. What do you think? And often they can speak the truth.
The challenge is so many people don't understand this dynamic. And they'll say, well, it sounds like sounds like your partner didn't feel heard.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
it's hard to navigate as a child because you cannot leave that relationship.
Yeah.
So I think that the idea of I always think sometimes of my spine being metal, like of just having a strong core. And I think that that's something you'll have to build up for yourself.
Yeah.
Because somebody else is not going to build it for you because you're not surrounded by safe people. So you almost have to be your safe place and have that iron core. And then that doesn't mean you're not teachable. It doesn't mean you can't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you don't say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or are too sensitive at times, whatever. That's where you look for your safe people.
Yeah.
And hopefully you find it.
Keep looking. If
Yeah.
people don't feel safe, you'll recognize in your body, like you're saying, Jill,
Yeah.
you'll recognize in your body what safe is.
Yeah.
And so if you're not finding it, keep looking, because this dynamic is crazy making. And if you have a feeling, you have an emotion, and the person that you love wants to shut you up and shut you down, then you can try once or twice. But if you notice that we're starting to gaslight, give it a name, stand in your truth. Don't defend it. Don't protect it. It's not going to get heard no matter how much you fight, no matter how much you defend, even if you have, like in my case, even if you have witnesses present.
I think too, if it shuts you down into the point where you kind of disappear, or if it makes you angry in order to shut you down and disappear, that's a good tool for you to know that this is not. Because ideally, in polyvagal, this is a whole theory, but you go to a safe place. So if you are angry, it should bring you back to a sense of safety. But if the anger only turns in on yourself to a shut down place, you know that there's something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And so thank you for that, Amber and Jill. I think that I know that it's not wonderful tools, because we're talking about essentially getting out of a relationship, walking away from a relationship, not fighting for what you know to be true, or documenting things that are happening so that at least you don't feel crazy. None of those sound like good options, and none of them are good options, because the healthiest option is you have a healthy person in your life who can hear you and you can actually communicate with. But once you recognize you're in a relationship with a predator, hopefully you're starting to hear, if you've heard any of our podcasts at all, you'll start getting the sense you probably need to start thinking about an exit strategy. And so this will not be true for you and your life forever. I think we can wrap up our episode here by just exploring this idea of what is healthy and what is gaslighting. People miss gaslighting, and we miss it when we watch other interactions, because what we see is one person bring their pain, and then we see the other person bring their pain. And that's what we often see as outsiders. And that's what we see even in our own relationships. I brought my pain. The predator brings their pain. It looks on the surface as if we're both bringing our pain. The challenge is on the reality, and this is what we want to watch for. When one person brings their pain, that pain needs to be dealt with. Full stop. If that pain is ignored, or the other person brings their pain over top of that, that's not okay. That's not healthy. If you say, Amber, PJ, you really hurt me, I deal with that pain. Now, maybe you hurt me too. I can share my pain with you too, but it has to be after I've dealt with the pain you brought to me.
I think that's really important what you're saying, because I think our nature is to justify what we've done, especially if we've hurt somebody. But that's not my intention. I was blah, 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 blah. Whereas just acknowledging that, allowing the person who was hurt to be hurt in that moment.
Yeah. And we can either be a conduit to a relationship, or we can be a dam.
I would love for anybody who's listening out there who either has experience with being gaslit, or whether this is ringing a bell, please reach out to us and let us know where you're at and what's going on for you. You're not alone. We are here for you. That's why we are doing what we're doing. And we know the pain, and there is almost no pain as more intense than this, and we get it. And we don't want anybody to miss out on the depth and the breadth of hurt that this causes. And it hurts families, and it hurts individuals, and it hurts our communities. It hurts children. And we really want to give a language to you, anybody who's listening. And we want it, even if it doesn't ring a bell, I think that's wonderful. when somebody tells you something that happens in the relationship, really listen carefully if they're being gaslit, especially if they're telling you that they did behaviors that just doesn't seem to be in keeping with their character. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope you've learned some things.
Well, and knowledge is power. We want to give power to those of us in this world that are prey, so that we can see, because we are strong and we are resilient, and we want to give tools so that you can see the tools of a predator. So this is #PreyPower. Follow us and contact us. Real quick, we're also doing a draw where one of our listeners who leaves a rating and review will be entered to win a Visa gift card and a book about navigating this type of abuse. So anyone who leaves a rating and review, remember to do both or it won't count, anytime before March 31st will be entered to win a $50 gift card and will receive a book from our preferred reading list. So head on over now before you forget.